of where they come from, their schooling, even just gender. I mean, there are a lot of young people in Berlin, and
mind you, it's still very much what you want it to be. If you insist in being called maestro by all of your musicians and being only approached after having made an appointment prior, you can still have that gap if you want to, and if you think it serves your purpose. But I want to say it's much easier, and I personally enjoy to have a relaxed relationship with my musicians, and that's much easier to accomplish both in America, where it always was easy, I think, but in Europe too now.
I wanted to talk a little bit about auditions, partly because it's something that I've thought about a lot over the years, but it's, I think as we all know, it's not a perfect system, and yet it seems to produce pretty good results pretty consistently. What have you seen over the years in terms of it working well? I know we've made some changes here over time. What do you think could work better about it? I mean, you've spent pretty much your whole professional life in what you might call the current American system, where there's a committee and there's screened auditions, and the music director may have the final say, but definitely in collaboration with the committee.
I think it ties in very much with what we talked about earlier, the relationship between the music director and the players. I think our auditions here in Milwaukee work very smooth and well, partly because of the system and the way they run, but also partly because we have a relationship with each other that I think no member of the particular audition committee ever thinks, oh, I cannot say this in front of the music director. You know, you can say pretty much everything. And I feel the same way. We are open, we are honest, we joke around. We know that what we talk about stays within that group. I think we're very serious about the not sharing this with any musician other than the members of the audition committee. And again, that's the culture of the relationship we have with each other. I think the decision is really reached jointly, as it is supposed to be on paper, but with some orchestras it's not. With some orchestras, and I've had that experiences myself, it is that the committee presents the music director with a group of players which includes their real artistic favorite, but it also includes their good friend who has been subbing 900 times and they don't want to hurt feelings, and maybe a member of the orchestra who's auditioning for the job that they think really shouldn't have the job, but they don't want to be the ones to say that, so they say, well, that's why the music director gets paid the big bucks, let him be the nasty guy. That, I think, works less well, because it really leaves the music director with making the choice, which then sometimes might not be what that group really wants. When you present me with a decision, I really know, because we have talked about it openly, who artistically is your favorite. You're not always agree, sometimes it's two. But I would say more often than not, I can really read what you think is the best for the orchestra, or whether nobody and we should go in the next round, or whatever it is. And often we come up with saying, this looks really good, let's play a round of chamber music, let's have that person play a week with the orchestra. And I would say 9 out of 10 cases, I've gone along with that. The point where we sometimes differed in the past is after that first week. I remember once or twice I said no. Or once or twice when it came to tenure, I said no. Or yes, when the committee said no, or was divided. But the initial decision, who are the people that we are really seriously looking at, is really reached jointly. And I think the system of you going through the first group and then go through the semifinals and then presenting me with the final candidates, it works. And the 1 or 2 times where we got stuck, I remember principal timpani auditions. After the 3rd time, I said, please invite me to the semifinals. And it was helpful, because it gave us, because we discussed after the semifinals, you know much more what I was looking for, and I knew why, after having listened to 120 timpani players, it was really hard for you after a while to differentiate.
Timpani is such a hard instrument to audition for anyway.
It was really that. You needed that fresh pair of ears a little earlier than at the finals.
Right.
You needed that in the semifinals, and it yielded a very good result.
Right.
But again, I think the flexibility on the side of the music director and the openness of the musicians that know they can really talk open and don't have to be afraid that what they say is being relayed to their colleagues or to the members, to the auditioners who don't win the job, and that has no repercussions to them with the music director. I think that is extremely important. And if you build a culture like that, which we have, I think we have been very good and very lucky. If you look, the musicians that I hired here and tenured with your help, it's a pretty darn good group.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, if you see that the musicians that left us during my tenure were to the New York Philharmonic, to the Los Angeles, and to the Cleveland Orchestra.
And St. Louis.
And St. Louis.
Yeah, yeah.
That's also a darn good
Yeah, yeah.
group that shows that the players that are in this orchestra really like to be in this
Yeah.
orchestra and want to be in this orchestra.
Yeah.
Personally, I learned a lot about auditioning from opera, because when you audition 95 sopranos and 65 of them can really sing well, you start to look for other things. You start to look for charisma, for personality. You might ask them a little question between arias, which tells you a little bit who they are. You look at their conduct, you look at their security after the second and the third round, how they're holding up. And it's the same with orchestra auditions. When we audition for any given instrument, we get so many applicants, and many of them can play well. Many of them nail the excerpts. Many of them play a beautiful solo concerto. So we start, especially when it's about principle, to look for a little bit different things. And that's why the prolonged process through different rounds, through chamber music rounds, in a relaxed atmosphere where you can talk a little bit with these guys on stage, through maybe playing a week in the orchestra, you need to know more to make a successful decision than whether this player can play the excerpts well and has a good solo concerto. You need to know more. And to get the whole picture and to be able to hire somebody that you not only know will play well in the orchestra, but also will fit well into this organism of 100 people who have their specific chemistry with each other. That needs a rather fragile mechanism, which I think we have shaped rather well here.
And it's always difficult and painful to fix a bad decision after the fact.
Yes.
So.
Yes, it is. And you know...
And sometimes it doesn't happen because it is so hard and painful for
Yeah,
for
well, that's
everybody.
the other spectrum of a music director's work. You can shape an orchestra's personnel by making good hire decision, but you also have to get into the harder area, which is, termination, which gratefully I have not done very often, because more often than not it is talking to a musician who might be at the end of his career or her career, and just talking about that and asking about the plans for the future. And the ones that have it right and where it went smoothly are the ones that say, well, I have maybe another 3 or 4 years, so I would appreciate if you let me, sometimes move back into the section, or sometimes just not be too tough about me or so. But there are people, and I've experienced it here and other places, that are in that position where they create problems for their section, but then come to you and say, I don't know about any problem. Everything's perfect. What are you talking about? Nobody ever said anything about me. And then you have a problem that, again, in the American system, you can only suggest a termination. The final decision, as you know, with the process of arbitration and a panel of peers, the final decision is the one decision of the musicians. And the 2 times that I had to do that here in Milwaukee, both times I was backed up by the players and by the colleagues in my decision.
What